More now on our breaking news. A second judge has ruled that the Trump administration must use emergency funds to at least partially cover SNAP benefits in November. Remember, 42 million Americans depend on these benefits for groceries to feed themselves and their families.
Yeah, so many people. And Renee Marsh is following this. Renee, what else are we learning? A very quickly moving story here.
Yeah, so these two judges fund that is sitting at the USDA that contains close to $6 billion. They must tap into that fund to keep SNAP benefits going. If you remember, the Trump administration said because of the shutdown, they had spoken to states, and one in Boston and one in Rhode Island, making these decisions really just minutes apart. And so what we have here at this hour is that these two federal judges are aligned in saying that the Trump administration is required to tap into this emergency fund and that the Trump administration needed to release the funds for this program. In court today, the Trump administration's lawyers had argued that they weren't mandated to use this emergency fund, and they said that the shutdown was actually not an emergency situation in which they would move to use these funds. Told them that payments would not be made on November 1st. That meant that some 42 million people who rely on this program starting tomorrow were not going to have funds on their cards to buy groceries for their families. But these two judges said that that was unlawful. Needed to fund SNAP throughout the country. That costs about $9 billion per month. And so this judge said that the agency would also have to figure out if they would agree to look to move other money from the agency to supplement what is needed so that every American who relies on this program will get funds. Last point that is super important, that if you're watching and you're to that, the lawyers representing both the cities and the nonprofits who were challenging the suspension of this program said that millions of people not having access to food indeed is an emergency. So this judge in Rhode Island essentially ordered them to release these funds as soon as possible. Worth noting that the close to $6 billion will not cover all that is needed.
Government lawyers do not think we have the legal authority to pay SNAP with certain monies we have available. And now two courts have issued conflicting opinions on what we can and cannot do. I do not want Americans to go hungry just because the radical Democrats refuse to do the right thing and reopen the government. Therefore, I have instructed our lawyers to ask the court to clarify how we can legally fund SNAP as soon as possible. It is already
part of this program. What does this all mean for whether you will have these funds starting tomorrow? You will still see delays because it will take some time before both the agency and states can get the money flowing once again. Back to you guys.
So we got the Democrats. They're forcing judges and the Trump administration to determine the legality of using emergency funds to continue supplementing food assistance programs across the country. But these funds were intended for
John McConnell ruling that at least some of that money must be used. So even if it's a partial SNAP benefits, that is what the administration will be told by the court to provide. Let's take a look at one line out of the ruling here.
Late enough due to the Democrats keeping the government closed through the monthly payment date. And even if we get immediate guidance, it will unfortunately be delayed while states get the money out. If we are given the appropriate legal direction by the court, it will be my honor to provide the funding, just like I did with military and law enforcement pay. The Democrats should quit the charade where they hurt people for their own political reasons and immediately.
Let me translate that there. Find the money. You've done that in other cases by paying the military as well. And of course, these lawsuits were brought by some Democratic attorney generals as well as interest groups here representing the beneficiaries. And 1 in 8 Americans rely on these SNAP. Judge McConnell writing this. He said, while these contingency funds reportedly are insufficient to cover the entire cost of SNAP for November, defendants, he writes, also may supplement the contingency funds by authorizing a transfer of additional funds to avoid any reductions. So basically,